Alrighty, so this was one of the Racing Kings World Championship matches for the 2023 Racing Kings World Championship. This is the first one that was played. It is between FS-Schach, who is the higher seed in this series, and I'm not even sure how to pronounce the name, but I'll give it a shot. Amintavakkoli. I'm sure that's way off, but regardless, these players they played their match. It was rather fast, so you'll notice that the time management isn't as good as when you'll see other players play against each other. But we'll likely see better matches as we go forward. Obviously, it's the first couple of rounds, so we're going to see a couple of people who aren't used to playing. This match is a very good match to point out. A little bit of pointers for openings, and it's going to be an educational one for today for sure. Um, and there's nothing to discredit the players that were bad, but because everybody makes blunders and whatnot. So I just want to make that clear from the beginning that I am not trying to insult the players' play or anything, but you will see quite a bit of opportunities here that I will give talking points to about what could have been better, and going forward, and hopefully it will help these players going forward. So it's a bishop symmetry opening and usual just king g3, king b3, and then it plays into knight c3 here. FS-Schach actually has the white pieces here to clarify. Um, After knight c3, a knight f3 to do symmetry, and then the more modern opening that's been happening more recently after knight takes f3 and knight takes c3. Here king g4, pretty standard stuff. Knight d5 is a weird move. It really doesn't accomplish anything. Moving your knight here, it actually exposes your rook and actually pins your rook to your queen. This rook is protected by the king still, so it's a little bit weird. So there's a couple different things that you can do here. But white obviously knows the theory. Knight g5 is a good move here. It attacks this bishop, and if you move the bishop back to some sort of safety, here, obviously, just queen h6 to attack the bishop, but anywhere else, you're just going king g5, and this bishop's diagonal is now stopped. That's basically the idea. But after bishop takes g2, here's the first thing. So when you do openings, you do have to realize the keys to the opening. A key to knight c3 openings is that you have this double diagonal here. And it's not about stopping the king, really. It's about stopping major piece development. It's to cramp their opponent into this little box in the corner. With the rooks blocked by the king, if the king comes here, then the queen is not coming out, but the rooks are still kind of cramped. So the queen only has a8, meaning that a7 and a6 are stopped by the bishops, meaning that guess what? If you advance, they're not going to be able to stop you advancing. Grant knight cuts off this square, but you still have an advance. And because the rooks are delayed getting out, you are still getting a free ride here because after knight f7, you're just fine. You're getting to the 8th rank pretty easily. So king f5 is the move here that you want to play. Obviously, that was not played in the game. If king f5, it would be probably an instant resign. There's no way you can fight back. There's no pieces you can sacrifice. Black is just completely losing. But rook takes g2 to continue this pressure on the rook, which is totally fine. But now you can't really play king f5 or king to h5 at all, because the king doesn't really have anywhere to go because of where you put your rook. And if you leave this bishop diagonal, queen a6 is a move, so just an odd choice. So just realize the strengths in your opening, the weaknesses in your opponent's position and openings. When you choose to play them, make sure you study them and figure out not only how to play the moves, just memorize them, but figure out the ideas behind the openings. And this will be a big tip going forward in the Racing Kings World Championship, playing Racing Kings, and even as we analyze this series further. So king a4 was played. It's the only move in this situation is that you need to open your rooks, because if the king tries to advance, you need something. Rook g6 would have been fine after king h5, for example. Even though you lose your queen, you do this, and then you can eventually open up your diagonal. This knight's active. It's not in the best position yet, but it's still playable with the black pieces. So king h5 was played in the game. And then we have a weird rook b7. Rook b7 is a complete blunder. Why is that a blunder? Because after you take the queen, your king can advance to take care of this diagonal. So now your rook's just allowing your opponent's king to advance. Eventually, it doesn't have to be immediate. You're losing your queen, and the double diagonal is not stopped, because even if you allow and then take back after, well, you're just down material now. And your rooks are no longer aligned, so your rooks are in odd positions. So bishop takes a1 was played, and king a5 was obviously played, and back to bishop d4. Everything good up to here. Bishop e3 was played. It's a smart idea to attack this bishop. White has a couple different options here. What they played was fine, which was bishop to c4. This was to attack the knight. You get the knight off the board just because you're up material here, have a better position. Just get rid of your opponent's pieces, and eventually you can force them into Zugzwang. Alright. Now, rook 1b4 was a good move here, attacking the bishops. Here, bishop takes is fine because you take here afterwards. It may not be the best position. I'm not sure if that's an immediate takes, but eventually you threaten the rook. But your bishops are under attack. Bishop c4 wasn't the best move of this position. I cannot recall what was the best move. It might have just been knight e6 to open up your rook, something like that. But then bishop takes d5, the only move here for black. You have to take. You have to get rid of this double diagonal somehow. This is obviously the better way to take, so your rook still defended, takes, and then takes back. You at least have some fighting force here, even though you're down material, because this queen is stuck on h1. But then king a6 was played. That is a terrible move. If you ever sack a piece to just move the diagonal over, do not advance your king. Look for other ways to still take care of this diagonal, because otherwise you're just going to be stuck. That was just a completely terrible move, dubious move. And it had no idea behind it. It seemed like you were just advancing the king for advancing the king. And then you have knight e6. And this is a blunder again. Let's go back to this position. If you go here, your diagonal is completely safe. There's nothing black can do. Because, for example, if takes, and then the rook comes here, takes, then, I mean, you could take here and try to fight. I doubt that would work out somehow, because after takes, your rook's pinned. But then you can come to, for example, knight e6, blocking off the c7 squared. King comes here into the rook to g8. This diagonal here. The rook can't really move. The rook can't drop back. Black's a complete zugzwang here. There's nothing black can do. Obviously, that didn't happen in the game. It was missed, knight e6, and then bishop takes d4, which is a good move from black. I think the only move, in fact. Went a little bit farther there, so bishop takes d4, and then rook g8. This is a completely fine position for white. White's completely winning here. Position-wise, black still has a few tricks up their sleeves, though. So it's not clear-cut win for white, but with perfect play, white would be completely winning here. Bishop e5 was played, and this is a very clever move, because it subtly brings the bishop to come to b8. While keeping this diagonal, this rook is still available to maybe pin a piece. It can also be used to trade the rooks, because the rooks are still together. King g6 was played, simple idea. King a7, and then bishop takes b7 was a blunder. Blunders to draw, why? Because rook takes b7, and then you have this threat. Alright, rook takes b7, and now there's actually only one move here for white to draw. It's a very clever move. After knight to c7. Why does this work? Well, if you take back with the bishop, you pin, and now black's actually losing here, because there's nothing you can do. If the rook comes here to try to stop, then king just h8. But obviously you don't want to take back with the bishop for that simple thing, so rook takes c7. Now, black's down a tempo. You can not go queen h7 though, because after queen h7, just rook to b7, and you're too slow. So what is the move here? It's again an only move. Queen to d5, hitting this bishop, because if you just go back, well, now the bishop's taken, and it's a double attack on b8. The rook cannot come to b8. So it's a nice little puzzle here. Queen to d5. The bishop really doesn't have any squares to go to, so it can come to h2 and maybe prolong the mate sequence. For example, here and then queen to g2, but then it's just going to repeat. But if you, for example, go to some here like bishop f4, then after queen f3, and then the bishop comes back, then you have queen f7, and it's a straightforward draw. You can even take the queen here, the king takes, and then here, and then it's a complete draw. That was a complete draw. It was a little bit tough to see with as much time that FS-Schach had on the clock was 17, I guess at the time, 19 seconds. But he should have taken more time because endgames you can mostly pre-move or fast move, especially since there is increment here. Knight g7 was played, and then just bishop e8, king e7, king e8 wins. Unexpected, the lower seed wins the first match, and then we move on to game two. In game two, I'm just going to call him Amin for now. I don't know if that's his real name, but Amin has the white pieces, and FS has the black pieces. So Amin opens up with king g3. He will open up with king g3 for the entire series. It seems like he isn't very well versed in theory, but he has a couple tricks up his sleeve because he plays it differently almost every single time. So knight takes f2, rook takes f2, king a3, king f4, all theory up to here, rook b6 still theory. Queen e5 is not theory, but it is a move that is playable. It's a little bit wonky because your queen's in a position that's kind of just in limbo. And your major pieces, your rooks, they're kind of awkward, especially this rook on f2. Your knights, they're kind of useless at this point, the bishop, but black's underdeveloped. It's 4 moves in. It's playable. Your king can come here, for example, eventually some sort of rook f6 idea with the pressure on the c2 bishop. You know, maybe open up with knight d4 and then have the pressure on the second rank from your rook. So it's a playable position, just a little bit wonky because black's a little bit better here because the king just defends, and sure, you eventually have this move that takes c1, but then you basically go into your usual line of where your queen's on h1, but now you're down the tempo. So king b4 plays, and you have king g5, which is a blunder. So in these openings, you do have to realize, I don't even know the correct move here, but you do have to realize with your pieces discoordinated like this that you kind of have to figure out what you're doing before you just play a move. I will actually turn on the engine here. Apparently, I take c1, which it makes sense. You just go into the down the tempo line. Because the rook's out of place at that point. The rook can't get involved. The rook has to come here, which is the usual line. So, for example, I'll probably be able to show it. After king b4, you play knight takes. The bishops can come here because it's defended both ways. My guess is that you can actually come to queen here to attack the queen, and it's a little bit different position. I'm not sure what the best moves are here. You can't come here with the queen. Maybe queen a5, and then you take the rook, threatening the bishop, something like that. After takes here, and you take black's down pieces. So I doubt that's the best line for black, but it's an example of how white can get a good position out of that opening. But king g5 was played, and here, just attack the queen. The queen is just going to get chased around because it's an odd position. You're not going to want to remove it from the rank because then the king just goes up and gets 2 ranks for free, actually, after king b5. So bishop e4 was played. It's still a 5 move. It attacks the queen, but it's not as limiting. So the move here actually for white is rook g4, just pinning, and the bishop in essence becomes useless because the queen is fine here. And black just lost the move, pinned their bishop, and is in a little bit complicated position. It's back to an equal position. Queen e5 was played though, and then the best move here was played bishop b2, and then you have queen f6, which is completely losing actually. What was played here was completely fine by FS, but queen a7, queen a8 just completely crushes your opponent because these rooks are not going to go anywhere. Alright, king b5 was played, completely fine like I said, king h6, and then again, queen a7, queen a8, just completely crushes your opponent because they can't do anything at that point. The issue here is that with takes is that now you can do some shenanigans. It's not really anything, but like with rook f. So I'll just show it. So it takes and the rook takes, and then queen a7 now with rook g7. You come here, and then maybe you have some bishop g2 counterplay. It's not so clear. Black is obviously up a whole major piece. They just got to get it involved somehow, and black is just winning. but that is actually what was played in the game. Wow. So bishop takes f6. Also the rook takes, so queen a7, rook g7, queen c6, and bishop g2 was the kind I played, but queen b7. Black's just completely fine here. You got a fine mate sequence set up. Bishop takes e4, and then yeah, it's just here. So good play from FS to hold on to that. It was a little bit complicated after that, but I will go back just slightly and just show you that after king advances, if you play queen a7, rook to g7, here, this diagonal cannot be stopped. It didn't need to be used so fast, in other words. The king can't move anywhere. They're kind of in swing here. If bishop g2 here, well, you can take, and then after takes back, you can actually leave this again. After takes. If you go here, it probably isn't the best move actually. After knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, you might just want to play actually bishop takes here. It's not so clear, but yeah, black's completely winning here. Again, bishop takes f6 just looks a little bit wonky. I wouldn't have played it at all. If it was up to me, I would have just left this to threaten this. Just go on queen b7 immediately. If takes, then I just advance. Because rook has to come here, and then maybe now you play bishop takes. Because if bishop takes here, you just play the rook takes, and then it's just main you. That just seems a lot simpler position. So black did fine here to do it, but I think white could have complicated that position after bishop takes f6. Anyway, well, I'm already through it. Game 3 is played. So game 2, even series. It's 1-1. Black has won both times, which is interesting. FS this time plays knight takes c2, rook takes, rook f5, usual theory here. Rook b8 is not theory, but it's still a workable move. You're developing your pieces, you're completely fine, nothing to worry about. Knight f4 is a tricky move here. What it's doing is it's trying to fortify this bishop on here, so you can't exactly block this rank. And it also allows you to just advance to the fourth rank. This knight's going to be a little bit of a nuisance later on. Rook c7. So that's a bad move. And the reason why I say it's a bad move is because the knight, you just allowed your rook to be attacked by a knight. So it gives your opponent ability to attack. The issue here with white is that you attack and then there's nothing after the rook moves. But it does make that rook have to be discoordinated in some way. Bishop d3 was played, but that was not a good move. Let me show you a more aggressive move. King g3, just advance your king, because the pieces are not very coordinated. Eventually you have knight e6, if I can draw it, or knight to d5. It's just a simple thing there. The best move is actually rook to d3, because cut off, and this queen, where's it going? It has nowhere to go. Sure, maybe queen d4 at some point, but that's a very odd position to put your queen. It's not very coordinated with the rest of your major pieces. If you do want to go something quick like knight b3, then simply advance, and then your queen stuck. Black's not losing, but white is better. I will say that. Bishop d3 is just a normal theory. If you leave your rooks down here or something like that, it's fine. King b3, then king g3 is played. Knight c4, which is a little bit of a wonky move, but it's a little bit fine. But what's bad about this move is it cuts off your rook from defending this bishop. So you're giving your free bishop away, but it's not the end of the world. After here, if you take back, which wasn't played, queen d4 is played, which is a bad move, like I've said before. Put your queen in odd position. If you take, the queen's stuck here. It doesn't really have a place to go. If you go here, for example, and then here, sure, it's not the best of positions. This probably isn't the best play, but it's just to illustrate that this queen doesn't have anywhere to go right now. It's going to take 2 moves to get it out. So it's still playable for black. I'm sure you could fight. Probably not after sacking the knight like that, but it's just an example. So rook takes c1, and then you try to save the queen. Queen to d4. It's not good position. Your queen's not really anywhere good. Sure, it might come to a7. Happier place, but then the rook, what's the point of bringing it to c7? The issue here is that you eventually have knight e6, which was played immediately. It's not a terrible move. The queen's protected by the king. Your rook's got to move, so rook c to b7, which is fine. Queen h4 attacking the queen. This does not protect other than the knight move by the king. queen to b2, just fine stuff here. Rook c4, because black really didn't have anything. Oop, really gotta stop pressing the wrong arrows. But rook takes c4, you're losing its major pieces though. It's pretty straightforward endgame. What major pieces? You just have to figure out how to coordinate them. If you're decent at chess, then you're gonna be able to play. King f4, odd move, because now you just give back the bishop. So rook e4, bringing it back, that's fine. Queen c4, asking you to advance. Honestly, I wouldn't mind taking here, although it puts you in a little bit of an awkward position with this knight on the 6th rate. So, sure, I keep on pressing the wrong thing here. But after queen takes d8, rook f4, king e5, I think is just an intuitively bad move. It's not a terrible move according to the engine. Just why would you come in front of your rook like that? Find another way. Even king g5 here is fine. Because after you advance, your queen's protected. Now you have a double attack. Sure, the rook drops back, but then you have rook to f7. This queen's pinned, they can't advance. You're fine here as white. It just seems like a weird move to go king e5 instead to unnecessarily protect your rook. And again, look at the clocks. They had plenty of time to think. But it gives black fighting chances. King b4. King f6, and this is where white starts to go wrong. This is just a hung rook, and you're not really giving it away for anything. Queen takes e4, knight f8. Okay, white, you're just kind of throwing your knight here to try to reroute it. I don't know what the idea behind knight f8 was. Because it relinquishes the c5 square that could eventually be dangerous, but for no good reason. I just don't see any good move, good motive behind it. You come here, maybe, and sure, this drop is a little bit scary. So I'm not sure what I play here. I just want to play king e5 in the first place. Yeah, you got a weird position as white, but knight f8 seems to destroy your advantage of if the rook drops back, you have knight c7. Anyway, knight f8, queen g4, and black offers draw. White is still okay here though. I don't know the exact moves, but yeah, for example, rook d5, you got something because now the queen doesn't attack the square. I think rook e5 is totally fine here too, trying to threat to advance. And what does white do here? It's a surprising, absolute mind-boggling thing. They blunder draw. It's kind of hilarious. Because guess what? After queen takes, oh, well, you don't want to blunder that. Rook takes. Well, black's holding on here. After rook here, you can't come here. Otherwise, you lose your rook, and then you're just losing the game as white. So it's just gonna basically be a shuffle draw here. Because the knight's never going to coordinate with the rook to advance here without allowing the black king to advance and draw. It's just a draw from here. If that were to happen, it was missed. Queen g8. Okay, and they have plenty of time on the clock still. Just keep that in mind. Is that when you do have a lot of time, please use your colors to think. So yeah, white's fine here with queen f7. I don't think that actually is queen g8. I'm pretty sure there's something else. I assume queen h8. Maybe even rook g5, just attacking this weird position to queen. Just yeah, deal with the weaknesses in the position. These are strong. Don't worry about them. Don't worry about advancing your king. You need to get something back. The queen is weak. Queen f7, and now you just hang your knight. Either way it's taken is good for black. Rook takes f8, and honestly, you're in a weird position here. So rook g5 is natural. Attack the weakened queen. If you don't, if you allow that, then your queen is just gonna be lost. So queen h7 is the best move for black. In fact, the only move for black, I think, that doesn't just completely draw or lose. So rook g7, and now here's a killer move here for black. I'll give you a little bit of a moment to spot it if you want to spot it. All right, queen h8, and white is in Zugzwang. Queen and rook pinned. If you move here, well, queen's taken, and then you lose. Maybe you don't want to go there, you want to go here. Well, your queens can still be taken. Same thing. Rook can also be taken completely for free. Um, so there is no good move there. If king f5, rook's taking. Um, if king e6 to keep this rook, the rook's taking, and this is pinned. You can try for some sort of stalemate, but it's not going to work out. So yes, that happened. Rook h8 was played instead, though, so it's just a draw from here. G5, and you just shuffle, which is a draw. That's fine. All right, game 4, and this is where things start to change for the series, and this is where you get more informative about openings. Know the openings you play. If you play king g3 every single time as white, I expect you to know king g3. Even if you're in 1800, you should know at least one variation of it. But it seems that he does no variation because knight takes f2 was played every single time. Rook takes f2, king 3, rook f6 is an odd move, but I mean it's playable. It's just weird to put your rook on f6. Rook b6, double attack. Just usual opening stuff. King f4. Here you need to play king b4. That's totally fine. There's a couple other moves here that you could play, but just play king b4 and queen h8. Okay, this is not even something that you have to learn from Racing Kings. A skewer. Okay, why wouldn't you play that? It's just completely winning. You're winning a piece somehow. If you take here and then take back, you have this super strong double diagonal. King can't advance. The queen's going nowhere. You just have a much stronger position. I don't know why you wouldn't play bishop b2. Bishop b4 is a staple king g4 openings, but again, the second time you play it and the queen's not on h1, it's a little bit weird for black to just assume that's the thing. Rook g7, yes. Another thing for white here, why would you set up this? Just you're begging for a skewer at this point, and now the rook's not even protected. Bishop b2, rook h6, and then you just lose. A little bit disappointing there, but it is what it is. But it's just simple stuff that you should know without even playing Racing King. Sorry. King g3 from FS, and then it's just the usual line, queen a6. Knight takes g, knight takes f2. Okay, know your openings here. Again, if you're gonna play it, know it. Rook takes f6 just wins on the spot because now you have a coordinated rook. You don't have to fight, and yeah, you're just winning. You have much better major piece development. It's just completely wrong. Just know your openings. Rook takes f2 there. Don't do this. Why would you give up the queen for queen? That type of thing. Sure, you can hold on to it, but it's just a draw from here. Isn't it? I think actually the line is, there is a line that goes knight takes at h1, rook takes, and then rook b6. So yeah, it works. Even according to the engine. Alright. Rook g6 was played, rook queen c6, and then again queen h8. I don't know why you do something like that. It's just weird. Rook b8, queen e8. Alright. I mean, eventually play knight d4, go on attack the queen. But it is what it is. King c5. I think that there's something here. Actually, queen. Was it queen? Was it here that you're supposed to play king b5? Yeah, king b5. Just go back to the main line. Queen c6 was played. Oh. And then here after queen h8, rook b8 was a terrible move. Rook takes c2 allows you to coordinate your queen better. Ooh, don't play queen e7. Play rook. Take c2. Even king b5 here is fine. It gets back to the main line. Right, but obviously it wasn't played. So no point in whining about it. Just patience. Rook b8, king c5, bishop h3, rook 1 b7, and surprisingly, as white, you've somehow squandered the position to the point where white's going to have a mate sequence. I mean, black's going to have a mate sequence. Why would you play bishop b2 here? Makes no sense. Just give up the queen, mess with their position somehow, and then get your rooks better placed. Fight back. I don't know. King b6, queen takes, and then yeah, it's just over. That's just silly. You'd blunder that. No further comment on that. That's just something that you shouldn't blunder with as much time as you have on the clock. This time, I'm in with the white pieces again, going to king g3. Again, know your openings. King e3. I don't know what queen h6 is. Why would you allow this diagonal to be a threat? It's just so weird. Knight f3. Let's play knight takes c1. Obviously taking that, but then you should lose the rook. Knight takes g1, and it's just a free rook at that point. I'm just down material. h4, rook takes c1, king g5, rook g8, rook b8. Black just has a strong position. Double diagonal, rooks are going to develop. Pressure on the first rank. There's nothing good here going for white. Just nothing. Queen f6, and then you have king b4 and queen h6. And then, interestingly, black blunders the draw. Defend the 7th rank here. It's simple principles. The queen is just under attack here. So just go queen a7. Something simple like that. So there's two ways to draw here. You either just go king g7 immediately, which is a little bit harder to explain, so I'll just go with the queen takes a1 line. So after rook takes a1, you come here to king g7, and you're threatening this. Okay, rook to rook a to a8, doubling up to defend the square. Bishop g2 attacking the rook. The rook can't move anywhere, so just move forward, take, move forward here, move forward, and if you come back, then just rook takes, simple draw. Very straightforward draw to see. You can easily calculate, at least top players can, and I can too. And I'm not even that much of a top player. That's 6 moves to calculate for a simple draw. And it was all very simple moves. Wasn't anything extravagant, and you got to calculate multiple different lines. Pretty straightforward line to see that draw. I don't expect 1800, or I guess a 1900 at this point, as white to see it, but just something you use more time on. Bishop g2 was played in 20 seconds or so. So just use your time more. Again, going for queen a7. Okay, you were allowed to save yourself. This is actually the prolonged threat. This is the immediate threat. Queen f7. And here you actually want to play rook e7. Why? Because then you can play this after advance. And rook e7 was indeed played. Brilliant move. Honestly, white should resign here. There's nothing you can do. King g7, queen takes f2, and yeah, there's just nothing you can do. Black just goes on the easy way. So brilliant move there from FS. All right, game 7. So that was basically the turning point. At game 5, it was even, surprisingly, at 2.5 to 2.5. Now 3.5 to 2.5. There's only 2 games left in the series, so that does spoil how it goes on from here. All right, bishop symmetry opening from FS again, but this time he plays king f4, king z4, and this rook g6 line. A very tricky line, but yeah, obviously as black, you just want to take the free queen. And after this, realize the threats in your opponent's position. Why would they give up a queen? It makes no sense to do that. So you have to think, what is your opponent playing? It's obvious. They want to open up this bishop because you no longer have a bishop on the light square. They want to basically dominate the light squares. So figure out what light squares they want to dominate, which is going to be troublesome. And it's obvious that it's this h1 diagonal. So just figure that out. King d5, I think, is a fine move here. You can play a5. I'm sure that's playable. Rook b5 is playable. There's several playable lines here for black. Or you can completely ignore it and play queen a8, which actually gives white an amazing tempo after bishop d2. And now you have to move your queen d8. I mean, you probably should have just gone queen a5 or queen to d5. Queen d5 is probably not as good after rook g5, because at least queen a5, you do have rook b5 after. Just king d5, rook b7. This is an odd move. Let me explain. It's not losing, but it's just an odd move. Because after takes, now your bishop's odd. it gets to circumvent that first diagonal. Sure, you have back to here, but it's just a little bit odd to allow this. And after you come back, so rook to b1 to b6. Although this rook was hanging, if you missed that. Sure, you could take the rook there after here. It's just a little bit of an odd move. That's why it's not losing or drawing. It's just an odd move to put your bishop out there to allow that to happen. Obviously, black's not going to see that, and they're going to just want to hold on to material because they're not using their time. They're not thinking as much. Here's x king b5, and then yeah, you just hung your rook, and it's just pretty straightforward. All right, FS up 4.5 to 2.5. With a win here, FS wins the series. King g3 again. Knight takes f2, rook takes f2, king a3, knight takes c1. It's a very good line. Most players play king b4 here. It's basically the only move. I know rook b6 is technically an option somehow. I just forget the line. King b4. There's a couple good moves here. King f4. The rook to f6. I know is a move. I believe queen h5 is a move. But yeah, there's a couple different things you could do here. But queen h6 is not one of them. Just because, like, the queen's, sure, it's coming here. It's just an odd place to put your queen without your king here. And allowing the king to just advance to the 5th rank. Rook takes c1 was played, though. Not as good of a move. I don't know what the idea behind that was, just to take that back rather than advancing immediately. Because there's no threat behind queen h6. But okay, king h4. And again, I don't know why FS always plays bishop to e4. There's no point in it. There's no threat behind it. You don't need to play this move every single time you run to king g3. So just know your openings is that there's other things you can look for. Yes, bishop e4 is a common theme, but when it doesn't need to play played, you don't need to play it. Rook g5 was played. White's just playing as best as they can. They have to side push. Knight takes f1 is a good move. That was their raised idea. You should have seen it coming. As white here, you probably should play just rook f4, pitting the bishop. King g5 coming, so that you can take the bishop afterwards. I don't know. There's a couple of different things you can do. Rook g5 is fine though. Knight takes f1. Rook takes f1. Rook c5 is a little bit of an awkward move from black. Because sure you advance, but your pieces are a little bit discoordinated. So I don't know. It just loses a tempo, but it's probably a fine move. King h5, king a5, and yeah, the 5 moves up to here. And yeah, here's where white loses. Queen d6. You have to realize with the bishop, you can't just force advance your king. Just reinforce. Rook f6, and then bishop can't come immediately. Sure, there's queen to b1. And it's rather straightforward for black, but queen to d6 just loses on the spot to rook b6. And it's actually showing here. I don't even have to do any explanation. It shows itself k6, hg5, because now you have this pin here from this blockade against the king. Rook f8 was played immediately. I don't know why you didn't just save the rook, to be honest, because this is also a double diagonal that's already set up. But you allow the rook to be taken back again, but it wasn't. So rook f7, king. I don't know why rook f7 wasn't played first. Bishop b7, again, because you do still have this. So I guess it was wise to keep the rook there. King h7, then you just take the free queen, the rook comes, and then the rook comes. It's straightforward. So yeah, that ends the series. So the biggest thing to take away from this series is, one, time management. Time management is going to be the biggest one coming forward. Even if you're like these players and you don't know openings, you didn't have enough time to prep, take the time to learn your position. Take the time to figure it out. And then the second thing is openings. Yes, take your time to learn your openings. Even if it's not for this Racing Kings World Championship, even if it's just to get better at Racing Kings, even if it's to get better, in fact, at anywhere, you need to know your openings. Don't play an opening expecting your opponent not to know how to respond. Because if you play someone who knows how to respond, obviously you're going to be in a little bit of trouble. But more than anything, take your time. You actually got to figure out the game. You can't just wing it. You can't just speed through it in championships like this. So these players played well for their first match. That was so quick to come out the gate. So they obviously didn't prepare for each other. Um, and it's obviously the first round, but I do hope to see better going forward. Um, good match to both of these players. They provide great learning experience and an exciting match. Best of luck to FS as he goes forward into this tournament. This was the first match, so I was unable to stream it. But yeah, good luck going forward. And that about sums up my summary analysis of this match.